All right, my name's Stephen Hall. Obviously, most of you have met me before, if not all of you, I think, looking at their names. So I'm the work the implementations and training side of things for TeamKinetic. The session, we're going to be covering those the things in the itinerary. So we've got the main things, obviously, opportunity types in terms of flexible, session-based, applying, joining, all that kind of thing. We're going to look at some different scenarios, and there's going to be some questions in there. Hopefully, if I can get the polls to work on here, some questions in there about letting you decide basically what type of opportunity you think it should be, depending on the scenario. We're then going to look at promoting and sharing opportunities, events, and then surveys, creating surveys for opportunities, and then at the end we're going to have some questions. Now it is due to be an hour and a half, but it may be shorter. I don't think it'll be any longer than that, but it may be shorter, depending on obviously how many questions people are asking. If you want to ask a question, you can just put your hand up. I'll try and keep an eye out for it. Also, at the end of each kind of slide or each kind of convenient moment, then hopefully I'll get my colleague to read out some of those questions, any questions you put in the comments. So if you you can either put your hand up and I'll just say, okay, what's the question? Or if you put it in the comments, if you prefer to do that, and at a convenient point, my colleague will jump in and remind me and read out some of the questions to me, and I'll answer them as best I can. Feel free to use like the emoticons, I pronounce it, the little faces, if you want to. If you can keep your mics off unless you're going to ask a question, that'd be just to keep any background noise out. That'd be appreciated. Where to find help in the system? There's loads of places in the system, as you know, to find help. Help and support menu when you log in as admin. Help and support menu. You've also, from there, you've got loads of videos, access to loads of videos, including this video here, as I mentioned before. You've also got online chat options in there, so you can ask our support team questions, and they're pretty quick at getting back to you. You can also ask support tickets, raise questions in support tickets. Usually, though, if it's a question, you tend to do it via the chat, in all honesty, because it's just a faster response. Support tickets tend to be like a more kind of a bigger issue that you need resolved. Yeah, all videos and slides, as well as the full video for this, are going to be made available afterwards in that same help menu. Okay, so what you'll achieve during this masterclass, you'll understand how many opportunities to create in different scenarios. So I know it's quite a common thing where people say, I'm not sure, is this one opportunity, but or is it multiple? And it's quite a common thing I get in training. Understand the difference between applying and joining opportunities. Okay, so when you create them, it's one of the main options, whether it's applying or joining. Understand how the different restrictions affect the volunteers' joining process, so their kind of experience trying to get onto the opportunity. Know how to promote opportunities in different ways, and know how to attach documents to and surveys to opportunities. Okay. And understand the difference between flexible and session-based opportunities. They're your kind of two main options when you're creating opportunities, to be fair. That you've got applying and joining, and then you've got flexible and session-based opportunities. Okay, they're your key ones, which really do affect the kind of experience from the volunteer's perspective. Understand how references work, like a high-level kind of overview, and understand how roles work, which is soon to be changed to flows, but at the moment it's still called roles. But the next couple of weeks or so, a few weeks certainly, it's going to be renamed to flows to stop confusion, because I know some of you call opportunities roles, don't you? So it's going to be moved over to flows, and there's lots of really exciting functionality coming in with that as well, which I may mention at the end. Ask me if you're interested, and I'll tell you what I know so far, but it's certainly a very exciting development, which has taken a lot of work from the development team over here to build this flows functionality. Okay. So I'm going to start off with some different scenarios. Now, scenario A. So what we're thinking about is how many opportunities? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? How many opportunities would we have to create for these different scenarios? Okay. Now I'd like to run a poll here, but I'm not sure how this is going to work. sharing. We can try it, I suppose. Let's see how this works. Okay, so scenario A is a food bank. So you have to picture this in your head. Food bank. Some volunteers are working in the food bank where they are sorting food and getting ready for distribution. Some volunteers will be packaging food into boxes. Some volunteers will be delivering the food to pick up points. And some volunteers are checking the sell-by dates. Okay. So that's your scenario A. So imagine food bank doing different things there. How many opportunities do we think you would need to create for volunteers doing all those different activities to be able to join? Okay, now I'm going to try and put a poll up here. Okay, so can you see those polls appearing on your screen? Let's have a think about scenario A. This is good. So we've got, it's an even spread between 1, 2, or 3. No one's gone for 8. There's always a wild card in these things, isn't there? I've seen Who Wants to Be a Millionaire enough times, and you need a wild card in there. So we can forget about, oh, you put number 8. Someone's being daft there. But is that you, Maureen? You're smiling. I can see who it is. I'll find out who it is. Okay. Yep. So 1, 2, or 3. So if we think about this scenario here, we've got some volunteers are working in the food bank where they are sorting and getting the food ready for distribution. So the food's coming in lots of different bags, and they're trying to sort it into different kind of food groups, I suppose. So that's one opportunity. Some volunteers will be packaging the food into boxes. Okay, that could be the same volunteers. Could be the same volunteers who are sorting it and packaging it. It could be part of one opportunity. If you imagine it from a realistic perspective, that could be kind of the same thing. They might be swapping over, jobs every now and again. So that could be the same. Doesn't necessarily have to be, but it could be the same. Other volunteers will be delivering the food to pick up points. That's definitely going to be different, isn't it? The people who are going to be sorting and packaging is probably going to be different from the people who are actually taking it to the delivery points, I'd imagine. And some volunteers will be checking the sell-by dates. So I reckon the first, the second, and the fourth, they're working in the food bank, sorting it, and then packaging it, and then checking the sell-by dates. I'd imagine that could be one opportunity. In my head, that could be one opportunity. I think the volunteers who are delivering it to the food pick-off points, that would probably be a separate opportunity. And the key things to think about these kind of situations is, are they turning up at the same place? Are they doing fundamentally the same thing? You might want someone says, actually, I'm quite happy to be sat there helping sorting food, but I don't want to be driving anywhere to pick off points or take it. I don't want to be doing that. That's because they're very different kind of responsibilities or activities. So I think it would probably be 2 or 3, potentially 2 opportunities or 3 opportunities. I would probably say there. Definitely not 8. Never put down 8, trying to line me up. Okay, so the next one is, so scenario B, all volunteers, so it's a librarian. So all volunteers doing the same types of tasks, sorting books, etc. And locations are across 3 libraries across the city. So what do we think? So they're doing the same thing, but they are in 3 different locations. Okay, I think we got all the votes in that. If you're going to vote now, I've got 5 seconds. Okay, so I would say if it's 3 different locations, then it's probably going to have to be a minimum of 3 different opportunities. Because depending on the location, they'll want to go to the opportunity that's nearest that location. Sorry, nearest where they live. So when you create an opportunity, it has a single location. Although there's a caveat to that, there's a new update coming soon, but at the moment, as a single location when you create an opportunity. So unless they're all coming to a central point every day and then going off to the 3 libraries, which is unlikely, then it probably have to be 3 separate opportunities that you're creating with those 3 different locations on there. So I would say 3. If it was 1 location, but they're doing lots of different things, okay, then you might say, well, actually, in the library, like sorting books and dealing with customers, this, that, and the other, then it'd be one location. But the fact is, across 3 different libraries, 3 different locations, it would probably be a minimum of three different opportunities. If that makes sense. Okay. And the final scenario. Okay. So, how many opportunities? One of these you can write off in your head. I won't tell you which one it is. One of these you can write off in your head to start with, just like you want to be a millionaire. Okay, litter picking. And if anyone puts in that one this time, I'm going to see what it is. So scenario C, litter picking. So the volunteers are picking up litter in 3 local parks. Okay, they all meet at the same point at the start. Okay, then they go off to the 3 different parks. The parks are very close together in this scenario. Okay, so how many opportunities? So it seems to be one is very popular. One's certainly leading the race here. Oh, we've got 3 in there. Okay. Good. Any more? 10 seconds. Okay, I think we've got more than, haven't we? I can't see any movement there. Okay, so I would say that because they're meeting at a central point, then the location is that central point. It's not the 3 different parks. You're going to see lots of opportunities, when they turn up if you're I don't know, a wildlife, a wildlife park or something like that. We've got a few customers like that, where they'll turn up at reception. That's the initial place they turn up. Now, once they've turned up, they may go off to lots of different places across the park, and some of them might be a mile away or 2 mile away to go and do a certain volunteer activity. But the initial place that they go is the reception. So that's all they need to know. That's the location of the opportunity, is the reception where they initially meet. And that's the case for many opportunities. So so it's not important the fact that they get taken off and jump in a quad bike and get taken off to different locations. That's not important. It's where they have to meet initially. That's the important part. Okay, so I would say it is number 1. Yeah, sorry, it's 1 opportunity. Okay. Person who said 3, have you got? I can understand why you may say that. Do you want to expand on why you said it's 3? Feel free to take your mic off. I've got a feeling. I can think of a scenario where you might say, actually. Who said 3? Nope. Don't matter if you don't want to speak up, that's fine. Okay. Right. So it was 1. I mean, you could say, I suppose, it depends how far away those different locations are. Maybe, I don't know. There might be some weird scenarios where you could say it could be 3, but the vast majority, I think, it's meeting initially. Oh, Maureen. Yes, Maureen.
What if they were signing out at a different place when they finished? So it only says meet at the same point at the start, not that they finished there. Oh, you mean like? Give me a scenario. I'm trying to think of a realistic scenario. I was just thinking, if they meet at the place that they're going to do the litter picking, but they've actually got to come in, say, in the main hospital to sign out again.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that could be. Yeah, it could be a relevant scenario. I haven't come across that type of opportunity before, but yeah, I'll give you that. That could be a scenario where you might want to split into 3. Sometimes you have to really think about these things, don't you, Maureen?
I didn't say 3.
Oh, someone else said 3.
I said 2. I didn't say 3, but it was just, I thought it's a trick.
Yeah.
It says they all meet at the same point at the start, but it doesn't mention where they finish up.
Yeah, it tends to be the initial meeting place, but I suppose you could say, well, at the end of it, you might be in different locations. But yeah, even then, they still need to know the initial meeting point. So I would still probably say it'd be the 1. Okay. Any other questions? Anyone about them? No. Good. Okay. So the key things to consider when we're doing this, choosing how many opportunities, is the location. We just spoke about that one there. The location. So are they all meeting at the same location? The time it's taking place, the time that the actual opportunity is taking place. If you say, well, they always meet at the same location, but these people meet at this date, and then these people meet in 3 weeks later to do the same kind of activity, well, you may have to create 2 separate opportunities. unless it's like a session-based opportunity, which we'll go into shortly. And the other thing is the activity. So this is a key one. If the activities are dramatically different, the key thing is the volunteers, they want to have a clear understanding of what they're going to be doing before they join the opportunity. So if you kind of say a event, I've seen quite often with events, they'll say event volunteer required. And then the person turns up, but they don't know whether they're going to be in the car park or whether they're going to be speaking to the, stuck in the car park, waving cars in, whether they're going to be speaking to the public on the, handing out flyers or refreshments or whether they're going to be litter picking. And they often want to know, nearly always want to know what they want to do, because that would depend whether they turn up or not. It depends whether they're interested or not. Okay. So the activity, if they are certainly very different, then you may take that into consideration of how many opportunities you need to create. And like I say, I've seen people try and group them together, but it makes it hard. Then you could disappoint people on the day then if they turn up and then suddenly they find out they're doing something completely different than what they expected. Okay. So I'm going to take away this pause here and go back on to slideshow. So now I can't do this seamlessly, but I apologize for that. Okay. So fully managed and self-managed opportunities. So fully managed opportunity, most of your opportunities are going to be fully managed within the system. Okay, it means that you're not only creating the opportunity in there, but when the volunteer joins it, they're going to be logging hours, leaving feedback, and but everything that happens in relation to that opportunity can be recorded and controlled within the TeamKinetic system. Sometimes, some of you, I think in more volunteer centers, etc., they might have customers like your Bernardos or your Macmillans and people like that, who have their own volunteer management system, or maybe they have a spreadsheet that they're super familiar with, and that they just want to use it for whatever reason. They want to carry on using their spreadsheet, but usually they've got their own volunteer management system, and it's usually volunteer centers. In which case, they want to use your TeamKinetic system as just a recruitment tool. They don't want to have to manage the volunteers in your system and then also manage it in their own Bernardo's system. Okay, so that's why we have this self-managed opportunity, which means it's basically they can create an opportunity with very limited information, okay, which acts as a redirect for the volunteer. So it redirects them directly over to their own volunteer system. Now, it's not ideal, as we know. If we think about that, it's very limited information we can get about that volunteer. I'll come on to what information you can see with those opportunities, but it is very limited. We certainly don't know how many hours they've logged, whether they turned up, whether they enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it. None of that stuff, because it's once they've left our system, the TeamKinetic system, there's no way of us tracking it. Okay, so that's a self-managed opportunity. But if you can, you want to always try and get them to use a fully managed opportunity. But like I say, sometimes rather than severing a tie with a large organization like that, if you're a volunteer center, rather than severing that tie, you might say, you know what, we'll just suck it up, let them use self-managed opportunities. At least we're capturing some information, and our volunteers are still actively volunteering. Okay, but most of you, and if at all possible, should be using fully managed opportunities. Okay, so what do you see if you have a self-managed opportunity? I won't go into this too much detail because hardly any of you will actually be using self-managed opportunities. But like I say, it's limited. We can see whether they clicked on the opportunity, see how many people viewed it, how many people clicked on it. But that's about it. Once they've clicked on it, it's redirected them off, and we're kind of none the wiser as to what's happened after that point. Okay. Okay, next we'll look at the restrictions interface. Okay, so when you're creating an opportunity and it comes to restrictions, there's two slides specifically that we're looking at. One of them is the opportunity application process. It's one on the left-hand side. Okay, and that's talking about the it affects the volunteers' experience. So what they have to do to get onto the opportunity. And the other one on the right-hand side affects who can actually get onto the opportunity. So we've got, one second. So we've got on the left-hand side here, we've got whether a role is required. So that's going to become the flows. So that's like, is there any prerequisites that the volunteer needs to do before they're allowed to get onto the opportunity? Then we've got the applying, to the right-hand side of there. We've got whether it's an applying or joining opportunity. So we know that an applying opportunity, you have to apply first before they can get onto it. A joining one is like litter picking. It's first come, first serve. And then we've got ask for experience, which is another way it kind of captures more information about the volunteer. We're going to come on to that a bit more detail shortly. And then you can also ask for references. So before they can get onto this opportunity, it will actually prompt the volunteer to put in their referee's details, and then it will send off the reference form. And it won't let them get onto the opportunity until those references have been received and approved by the administrator of your system yourselves. On the right-hand side, we've got the restrictions. So this is like absolute restrictions on the opportunity. So if they don't meet the minimum age or the maximum age, then it literally won't let them get onto the opportunity. I think it actually hides it from the search pages. I can't remember, but it certainly won't let them get onto the opportunity. And for those of you who are thinking maximum age, everyone could understand why there might be a minimum age. I think it's quite obvious. You know, some opportunities, they might be driving a quad bike or something like that around the wildlife park, in which case, you know, insurance dictates that they may have to be 21, or maybe they're driving a minibus or something like that. Okay, maximum age is kind of tends to be about insurance as well, to be honest with you. You know, so sometimes insurance won't cover certain people over a certain age of doing kind of strenuous exercise, you know, activities which require a lot of strenuous exercise. You've also got maximum number of sessions. So that's basically to stop. So imagine if you've got a session-based opportunity, those of you familiar with the session-based opportunities, it's to stop volunteers joining every single session. It's usually used for events. When you have an event on there, you can kind of minimize it that way to stop someone saying, I can do everything. I'm going to be awake every hour of the day and do everything. And they can't. So you can limit how many sessions they can actually get onto. Must have a clean background check. So that's your, obviously, criminal records check. So if the volunteer has a criminal records check, which has been approved and it's in date within the system, then it will let them get onto the opportunity. Otherwise, it will say, sorry, you need a criminal, speak to your administrator, you need a criminal record check. Must be inducted by the system name to join. So the induction, it's not about, whenever you see induction within the system, it's not about being inducted onto the opportunity. Because you might think, well, yeah, they all get an induction for this opportunity. Inducted in TeamKinetic doesn't mean that. Inducted means inducted onto the system. So some of you may say, well, they register as a volunteer, then they're inducted. Then I have a meeting with them. I'm going to chat about the ins and outs of it and get them to sign a couple of forms. And at the end of it, I mark them as being inducted. That's what it's talking about. It's a generic induction that everyone has to go through. And then to the right of that, we've got must be linked to a provider to join. So sometimes there's confusion over this in training. So providers can't see every volunteer on the system, as you know. If you're a provider, if you're logging as a provider, not an admin, you log in as a provider, you can't see every single opportunity on the system. Oh, sorry, every single volunteer on the system for obvious reasons. But you can see volunteers who are linked to you. So the next question is, well, how do volunteers get linked to a provider? Well, the main way is to join one of their opportunities. Once a volunteer has joined an opportunity, then they are linked to that provider. There are a couple of other ways. Like as an admin, you can manually link a volunteer to a provider. But all you need to understand at this stage is there's an option there. If you say they must be linked to the provider, then only volunteers that the provider could previously see, will be able to get onto that opportunity. And then finally, down the bottom here, we have restrict to volunteer groups. This is quite a popular one. So you can create groups within the system, volunteer groups, and they can be used for absolutely anything that you see fit. Okay, and one of the things they can be used for is, it might be communications. You want to email them frequently, or it might be, actually, I want to restrict an opportunity to this specific group of people. So if I give you an example, maybe maybe you're opening up a new wing at a hospital, and a member of the royal family, I don't know which one nowadays, member of the royal family turns up to cut the ribbon. Then you might say, okay, then I want to restrict this to these really long-lasting volunteers who've been with us for kind of 10 years plus. So you might create a group and put those volunteers into it, and then restrict the opportunity to just that group. So only volunteers in that group can get onto that opportunity. Okay, any questions over that? Nope, must have explained it well then. Okay, so this looks busy, doesn't it? Okay, looks very busy slide. Just going to give you a second just to try and absorb a bit of that. Start from the left-hand side. Okay, so this is the onboarding process, okay, in terms of the volunteers experience. So it's showing you what the changes that you make on those 2 pages, those screens that we just looked at before, in terms of the restrictions, okay, and the effect it has on the volunteers experience when they try to get onto the opportunity. So the first one is the volunteers see the opportunity on the search page on the left-hand side there. Straightforward. Okay, they're only going to see opportunities that are open. Okay, unless those open opportunities have been made secret. You might say, why would you want to make an opportunity open but then make it secret? Open means it's open for people to join. Why would you want to make it secret? Anyone want to hazard a guess? Tough question.
No places left.
No place.
Yeah.
It could be that. It could be that. I think what the system tends to, because you can specify how many volunteers can get onto an opportunity. Once it hits that maximum number, it will automatically close the opportunity for you. And then if you extend the number, it will reopen it. It tends to be more of a case of, imagine we've got that opportunity that we just spoke about before. You open up a new wing of a hospital and you've got a member of the royal family or somebody famous who's going to cut the ribbon. Okay. And you say, well, okay, but I want to restrict it to a certain group of volunteers who've been with me for 10 years. But maybe you don't want it to even appear on the search pages. You don't want to get all the phone calls. Oh, why am I not in that group? Oh, I've been here for 8 years. Oh, it's 10 years, is it? You might not want to have them conversations. So it might be better for you to say, you know what, I'd rather just hide it from those search pages. But then you're left with a dilemma. Well, how do the long-lasting volunteers, how do they become aware that it exists? Well, and how do they get onto it? Well, that's where you can use the promote options, which we'll come on to shortly. So you can promote the opportunity to those specific volunteers. So let me just clarify that. So you might have an opportunity that you make open, which means it's going to allow volunteers to get onto it, to join it. Okay. But you might make it secret, which means it's not in the search pages, so no one's aware it even exists until you manually promote it to those 10 volunteers who have been with you for years. Okay, so that's a scenario you might use and make an opportunity secret. Okay, any questions over that? No? Okay, and then we go on to restrictions. So in regards to restrictions, we've got absolute restrictions, which you can see there in green. And then in the orange below, we've got application restrictions. So starting at the top, the absolute restrictions, these are things that if the volunteer, there's not a lot of nothing the volunteer can do about it, but if they don't meet this criteria, they're not in the group, they're not linked to the provider, they're not the right age, then it's an absolute restriction. They can't get on that opportunity. Alternatively, below that, we've got the application restrictions. So these are things that potentially they could get onto the opportunity if they'd done something, like they went through the induction, or they got their got their references, got a reference sorted out, which it would prompt them for, or they got a background check, or they completed a role or a flow. I'm not going to go into that too much detail today's session, but essentially that's a set of steps the volunteer needs to go through before they're allowed on the opportunity, which is an application restriction. Okay, so the two, some are absolute and some are, okay, the volunteer could if they've done these things. So we need to keep in mind there. Any questions over that restrictions column? Oh, good, good. So next we get to one of the key criterias, which is a joining or applying. Okay, so if it's a joining opportunity, so remember this is an actual question when you're creating the opportunity, is it joining or applying? If you say it's a joining opportunity, like litter picking, for example, would be joining, then the volunteer clicks join and it's assumed that they're on it straight away, basically. Okay, you don't need to shortlist them, you just litter picking, you just need warm bodies. Okay, so once they join it, they're on it, and the communications will basically confirm that and say thanks. Well, you know, usually a provider, when you're creating an opportunity, normally you would email a volunteer, even if it is joining, you'd probably email them in advance anyway, just to kind of reconfirm the information to them, or see if they've got any questions. But if they didn't, they would still be informed to turn up on the day if it's a joining opportunity. Okay, that's the last thing the volunteer has to do, click the join button. Where applying, well, that's more like a job application. Okay, you're saying, well, that's nice that they're interested, it's fantastic, but I want them to apply, but I want the final say over to whether to approve or deny the application. Okay, I being the person running the opportunity. It might be yourself or it might be another provider. Okay, so applying means you get a final say over it. So I think a couple of scenarios. I think we come on to it in a bit, in a few slides. But like I said, joining is litter picking. Applying might be, I don't know, a netball coach, under 12s netball coach. Okay, you might not want anybody to join that. You don't just need a warm body. Okay, you need someone who knows the rules, which I don't. Go to my daughter's netball game last weekend. I definitely don't. But you might need somebody who knows the rules to actually obviously provide a coach. So that would be applying. Then you've got ask for experience. So that's another way of capturing some more information off the volunteer. I'll come on to that shortly in a bit more detail. Now, with the applying opportunity, as you can see down the bottom there, if it's applying, then the provider needs to approve the application before they're allowed on it. And then even after they approve the application, if it's a flexible opportunity, once the provider approves the application, then they're put on the opportunity straight away. If it's a session-based opportunity, like a rota, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then there's still something that the volunteer needs to do. They need to tell us what days they can actually attend. So there's an extra step for the volunteer to do where they would have to select their sessions. So let me just go through that bottom sequence again, just to make sure it's clear. So if it's an applying opportunity, okay, then the provider needs to approve them. And only when the provider approves them, if it's flexible opportunity, that's it. There's nothing else the volunteer needs to do. So it will just put the volunteer straight in the opportunity. But if it's a session-based opportunity, then there is something the volunteer needs to do. So it will ask them to select the sessions. And only when they select the sessions, that's it. Then they're on the opportunity. So they apply, they get approved, they select sessions, and that's when they're on the opportunity. That's as complex as it gets. Okay. Any questions over this? I know this is quite a lot to take in this particular slide. Nope. Oh, I think there's a hand up. Yep, you can speak. Unmute your mic and speak up if you got a question.
No, just me, Steve.
Okay.
Because we're a smaller hospital, I don't always have opportunities. So if you come on with one particular role like that, I would need to check availability. You know, there's only one volunteer on a ward, for example, visiting at a time. So that's where I would need to know that before I even said, carry on with the application.
Yeah, so would that be an applying opportunity then, but then before you approve them, you'd have to check with the ward? Is that how you would do that?
Right now, I'm not decentralised, so I would know. It would be me, because I would know that I've already got somebody Tuesday morning, but then I would say, could you do Tuesday afternoon?
Right, okay.
You see, so I would discuss all that early interview.
That's
we really get this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's quite common for that to be the case. I mean, making a decision of whether to approve or deny the volunteer's application for this applying opportunities, So making a decision of whether to approve or deny the application, there's often a number of things that could happen before that. It might be a phone call, it might be a face-to-face meeting, it might, there's an endless kind of list of things it could potentially be. But at some stage, you've got to be in a position to decide whether to approve or deny them. And for you, it's knowing whether there's vacancy in a particular ward. That's one of the things you've got to take into consideration. Yeah. Okay. Oh, this is going into, I've already spoken around these points here. Yep, don't need to go into that. Ask for experience. That's it. So why would you ask for experience? Yep, so there's two reasons, really. The first one is if it's an applying opportunity and you ask for experience. Well, let's talk about what actually happens from the volunteer's perspective first. The volunteer tries to get on the opportunity and a little window appears. You can see it in the bottom left there. And it says, please provide a few details about your suitable experience. They type it in. Now that information is visible to you. On the right hand side, you can see when you go to the opportunity, click on the volunteers tab on the left, and then where that red arrow is pointing down, you can click on there and it will show you what they've typed in regards to their experience. Now, the two reasons you might want to do this is one of them is it might be an applying opportunity, and you might, looking at their experience, maybe a key indicator of whether to approve or deny their application. The second example would be, well, actually, I'm quite happy to approve everybody, but it's not even applying. It might just be a joining opportunity. But I do want to know what their experience is, because it's going to help you understand how to best utilize that person on the day. So if I give you an example, if you're running an event and you need somebody to, I don't know, setting up equipment or something like that, and someone says, yes, I've set up the equipment for this event for the last 3 years. You might say, actually, I'm going to put that person in charge of them and the volunteers. So before they've even turned up, you know how you're going to utilize that person, because that person knows how the equipment needs to be set up, or knows at least where the equipment is, where it's stored. Okay. So it gives you a bit of insight how to utilize them. Any questions over that slide? Okay. So opportunity restriction scenarios. Okay, so a litter picking opportunity. So if it's a litter picking opportunity, would there be any restrictions at all, do we think? What do we think? What do you reckon, Maureen? Litter picking, would you put any restrictions in there?
Yeah, I would think there'd need to be a level of fitness, because some people, if they're older volunteering, they maybe can't stand for long periods of being down.
Yeah.
So occupational health would hopefully pick that up.
I never thought of that, to be honest with you, but yeah, I suppose so. It could be quite strenuous, couldn't it? So I went with my daughter a few weeks back, last summer actually, down the park, and we were doing litter picking for the bags, and it was strenuous. Some of the things we were finding in the bushes, it's heavy stuff. Looking it around, trying to get it back to the meeting place. So yeah, never thought about that. I suppose yeah, it could be that kind of restriction in place. Generally though, I think it's just warm bodies. When I see them creating, there doesn't tend to be restrictions on them. But certainly it's not applying. It's not necessarily applying. It's kind of just a joining opportunity. They don't need to be, linked to a particular provider or from a particular group, or they don't need background checks or references or anything like that. So normally there's no restrictions, but there could be some outlying. I agree. There could be some outlying kind of scenarios where you would put a restriction in place. Okay, but an under 12s basketball coaching assistant. Under 12s basketball coaching assistant. Would there be any restrictions with that? Somebody else apart from Maureen? So I'm picking on names. Someone else want to hazard a guess? No.
I can figure out on mute.
I can't see your names here when I'm sharing the screen, so I can't pick out names without. I didn't want to close down a presentation and re-present it and all that palaver. Go on. So, what's your thoughts? A basketball coaching assistant.
DBS check at least. So you've got your background checks in place.
Absolutely, yeah.
And, yeah, depending on the level, you might want some experience as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Yep, I would say I never thought about experience, but yeah, experience definitely would be required, wouldn't it? Or get an insight. I mean, usually with these things, you'd have a chat with them. It'd be like an applying opportunity, and you'd have a chat with them anyway and talk about their experience. But it's good to know right from the off, you know, if they have no experience at all, and you know they might not make the shortlist. But definitely under 12s, it would be a background check, so it's PVG or DBS, depending on where you are located. Thanks. Scenario C. So moving dead branches using a quad bike. Okay, this is more common, this opportunity, than you'd think. I've come across this a few times now. It sounds like a fun one to me. I fancy doing it. But moving dead branches using a quad bike. You have somebody else. What do you reckon? Somebody else hazard a guess. Okay. Okay. So moving dead branches. So I would say they're probably, well, using a quad bike, it probably would be quite physical. So it all depends about the detail, doesn't it, with these things? I mean, it probably would be quite physical. So you might have to check your insurance and make sure you've got to get the branches onto the back of the quad bike or onto the trailer. You might have a certain group of volunteers that are specifically insured and have been orientated on how to use the quad bike. You might put them in a volunteer group. So it could be restricted to a group if that's the case. Like I say, it could be age limits depending on the insurance. I don't think you need references or background checks or anything like that. You'd probably make it applying because you want to make sure these things are in place before the person's allowed on the opportunity. Would you ask for experience? Maybe you could ask for experience about that. Someone might say, oh yeah, I've got a quad bike myself or something like that. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So any questions over this scenario C? Okay, and overriding restrictions. This is quite a common question. Because the person who's running the opportunity, so if you're the provider or admins, as an admin, you can see and do everything on the system, works the same. Then you have the overarching control of the opportunity, which includes the ability for you to add volunteers directly onto the opportunity and bypass all of that if you want to. So you might have Joe Blogs and you chat to them and say, okay, well, I know they haven't got this stuff, but I know it's in place. We've seen it before. For whatever reason, it's not been updated on the system, and you may want to just add them in there. Okay. So to do that, you just go to the opportunity, go to sessions on the left-hand side, and then click on the plus button. Promoting and sharing options. So this is a way, when you create the opportunity, a way of different options you've got to who sees the opportunity, okay, and how it's viewed. So we've got the one we mentioned before, which is making the opportunity secret. Why would you do this? We know why you would do this. I've been through these different scenarios now. It might be, like I say, it might be a really kind of a popular opportunity where a famous person's cutting the ribbon, was the example I gave before. Or there could be various reasons where you don't want every volunteer to see it. You only want certain volunteers to be able to see it. In which case you make it secret, and then you can promote it to the opportunity. Go to the opportunity, click on promote, and promote it to those specific volunteers that you want to make aware of the opportunity. Okay. You can pin opportunities to the top of the search pages. Does anyone know what pinning an opportunity to the top of the search page does? Hazard a guess? Well, it's like Ron Seal quick dry and wood stain. It pins the opportunity to the top of the search pages for everybody. Okay, now only administrators will see this option, because you imagine if you've got lots of providers and they may not work for your organization, they're managing their own opportunities. If you gave them the option, they'd be like pin mine to the top of everyone's search page. So we don't let providers do it, but as an admin, you can. And the scenario it's used tends to be, oh, I need this opportunity filled kind of ASAP. It's happening tomorrow, or it's happening in a couple of days. And you might pin it to the top of everyone's search page. Okay. It might be an opportunity that you know is like an induction opportunity. I've seen them use that before, where you say, actually, for my opportunities, they all need to go on induction first of all. So I want that to appear at the top of the search pages. I've seen that scenario before. If you do pin them to the top of the search pages, and the opportunity is going to go on for a long time, then make sure you do unpin it once it's been filled. I've seen it before when people pin the opportunity to the search page and then they leave it, and then somebody else, another admin, pins a different opportunity, and before you know it, you've got 5 opportunities all appearing at the top of every volunteer's search page every time they open it. And then they say, oh, the search is broke. Then I'll look into it and say, no, you just pinned lots of opportunities to the top, that's all. Okay, so pinning opportunities. Share opportunity with link-wide network. Now, many of you might, a number of you might not be aware what a link-wide network is. Some of you will be. But we have this great ability in TeamKinetic to link different TeamKinetic systems together in what we call a link-wide network, funnily enough. Okay. Now, the advantage of doing this is you can share opportunities across multiple systems. So if I give you the example of in Manchester, where I'm located at the moment, they've got Manchester City Council has a system. Then Manchester Metropolitan University has a system. Then the University of Manchester has a system. Okay. And they can share opportunities across those systems. So when the Manchester City Council creates an opportunity, it's visible to all the students who log into their university systems. Okay. But we also can do it in more kind of controlling ways, where we can say, oh, actually, I want the city council systems to share opportunities with the universities, but when the universities create opportunities, I don't want them to be shared back to the city council because they're just for the students. Okay, that's called sharing with a link-wide network, and it just basically means you have more eyeballs on those opportunities. Now, the things you have to be aware of if you do this, and by the way, there's an option in there. If you go to your opportunities, you can see, if you're not linked to any other system, you can see what opportunities are in you can see what other systems are in your area, and it shows you the distance. So you might think, well, actually, I'm a local authority, and is there any other volunteer centres or universities in my area that I might want to link up to? And you'll be able to see them there, and it will take you through to the page, and you can contact them. It doesn't cost anything to be linked to another system. You just tell us, we just confirmation of all parties that you're happy for us to link you up, and just a click of a button from our side. So yeah, you can link opportunities. Sorry, link-wide network. You can also share opportunities with other national systems like the Big Help or the Do It systems. Doesn't tend to be used that frequently now, but the option is on there if you've got it switched on within your settings, to share it with national systems. What I would say with these ones here is, certainly the link-wide one, is what you've got to keep in mind is you can, once you link to another system, okay, so say you're a university and you link to you're the Manchester City Council and you link to the university system, then potentially you're going to have students who are joining your opportunities who have not registered via your site. So think about that. You're the city council, let it pick an opportunity, post it, yeah, share it with my link-wide network. The student logs into their university system, and then they see the opportunity and they can join it. It won't make them re-register. They can just join the opportunity, and that's fine. It's more volunteering happening, but at the same time, you've then got volunteers on your opportunities which haven't been through your registration process. So you won't have the same information for them, and you'll have limited control as well. Like, you won't be able to edit their profile information because the volunteer doesn't belong to you. They belong to the university system. Okay, but it is very widely used, the link-wide network options. Any questions over this slide?
I'm just thinking locally, WDCVS or TeamKinetic. That's the only one I could think
Okay, yeah,
locally. But there's no guarantee I'm really a 5 mile radius. Yeah, I could do that and then get people from out with that and cause a
absolutely, yeah.
problem. So I'd need to really think.
I mean, when we link you together, link the system together, you can specify on an opportunity by opportunity basis whether you want to share that opportunity with the link-wide network. Okay, so let me say that again. So first of all, if you wanted to go down this road, we link your systems together. So say it's Manchester City Council with the university. Okay, but then when the Manchester City Council is creating the opportunities, they can say, oh, actually, don't share this one with the university. I don't want any students on this one. They can choose not to share it with the link-wide network, okay, which is the second from bottom option we see on there.
Okay.
Okay, so you can do it on a, because sometimes I've seen it before where you might have, say it's a particular type, one organization deals with just sporting types of opportunities, okay, and then the other one deals with the Manchester City Council. They have all sorts of opportunities on there. So say the university one is just the sporting department, the sports department, sports faculty. Let's get the word in right, Steve. Sports faculty. Then Manchester City Council, they've got opportunities and doing all sorts of different things. Okay, well, they might say, okay, we'll link together, but I'm only going to share opportunities if they're sporting related, because otherwise you're going to have litter picking opportunities appearing on your university sporting system, which you don't want. So you can specify what types of opportunities, say actually share this one, but don't share this one. Okay. Any more questions over this? Okay, good. Okay. Should I use an event? So events, if you can create an event, okay, like, I don't know, my summer festival, something like that, Glastonbury, they'd have their own system, wouldn't they? But my summer festival would be a better example. So you create an event and you say, well, this event's got lots of different opportunities in there. Okay. I've got litter picking, I've got setting up equipment, I've got doing the car parks, handing out refreshments, all these different types of opportunities. And they start and end at different times. Okay. And they have different activities related to them. So they are different opportunities, but they're all part of the same event. Now, from the volunteers' perspective, certainly if you take the example of Glastonbury, they don't really care so much what they're doing when they're volunteering. They just want to volunteer on that event. And I've seen it before, even with smaller festivals. They just, I had a really great time. It was lovely weather last year when we did it, and it was we had a real good laugh. It's a real nice vibe to the event, and I just want to be part of that event. I want to volunteer on that event. I don't mind if I'm in the car park or whether I'm handing out refreshments. It makes no difference to me. Okay, so that's when you can create an event like that, My Summer Festival, and it appears on the right-hand side on the search page. So if you look at that right-hand image there, it says events. That's how it appears if you create an event. So what you normally do is you create the event in the system, which you can see on the create the event on the system, and then when you're creating the opportunity, you can link the opportunity to that event. So on that left-hand side image, you see, that's one of the slides you see when you're creating an opportunity. And you can specify and say, all right, this opportunity, yes, it's part of that summer festival event. Which means that on the right-hand side, from the volunteers' perspective, when they go to the search page, they could see the summer festival or the Great British Spring Clean, as it's showing there, and they can click on it, and it shows all the opportunities which have been linked to that event all in one place. Okay. Now you could do that with, the filters on the left-hand side, a category. You could do that in other ways, but the great thing about the events, or the additional thing you get with events, is an event also has a nice image on it, and it also allows you to describe what the event's about. It's our summer festival that happens every year, and we have all these great apps on and this, that, and the other. You could attach documents to an event, but fundamentally, an event also has any opportunity listed below that you've linked to that event. So you've got the event image, description, any documents, maybe a map of the event area, and then underneath it's going to list all the opportunities you've linked to that event. So when the volunteer says, I just want to be part of that event, they can click on the event name on the right hand side, as we see there, and then it shows them all that information on one page. Events also have their own unique web address as well. So imagine you're sending an email out about a specific your summer festival. You may put the link in that email directly to the events page, because that's what your email is about. Okay. So any questions over events? Good. Okay. Volunteers downloading documents from an opportunity. So when you create an opportunity, you can specify, you can add a document, upload it, a document or a file to an opportunity that volunteers who join that opportunity can then download. They have to join it first, but then they can download it. Can anyone think of any type of documents or that you might want to add to an opportunity that when a volunteer joins it, they can download?
Role descriptor.
Yeah, that's quite a common one. I mean, we have a section when you create the opportunity called description, but I see it sometimes that, you know, some descriptions are very large and they might say, you know what, I want a brief description in there, but actually I've got a 3-page description here which really goes into detail and I want to attach that to the opportunity. But absolutely, I've seen that's quite a common one. Anything else? Any of the files you might want to attach to the opportunity? Okay. Or things like, other things that I see on there are things like maps. Maybe it's a map of the area. Maybe the opportunity is it's in a castle. I think I saw this the other day. It's in a castle, and the file they uploaded was a map showing the castle area with meeting point A, B, and C. Which means when they're talking about it in the opportunity, we always meet at meeting point B in the morning for this opportunity. The volunteer can see it. It's a detailed map showing the entrances and all the gates and everything else, which you wouldn't get from Google Maps, obviously. So they've got their own specific map showing these areas or these meeting places. So a map is quite a common one. Other ones I see sometimes are health and safety forms that you want the volunteer to when they join the opportunity, download that health and safety form, complete it and bring it along on the day. Things like that. Okay, on the right hand side there, it shows you how it appears when the volunteers join the opportunity. That's where they can download it, and the opportunity documents. Now, volunteers can also upload documents to the opportunity. So what things might they want to upload onto an opportunity? Anyone hazard a guess?
Assigned role descriptor.
What, sorry?
Assigned role descriptor.
Oh, yeah, I suppose so, yeah. Assigned, yeah, it could be that. Yeah.
It's like their contract of employment.
Yeah.
So they've got to return it, and it sits with recruitment because they have said, I will do this, I will not do that. So
yeah, absolutely, yeah. That could be the case. It could be assigned completed health and safety form. So they might have joined the opportunity, downloaded the form, completed it, and then saved it, then re-upload it directly back onto the opportunity. So before you've even seen the volunteer face to face, you've got all of their completed health and safety forms. Other ones that I sometimes see are things like workbooks or activity logs. So I saw one the other day, and it sounded great for the summertime, not so much now, but it was counting insects in a field or something like that. It's like butterflies or something. And they had a workbook. Now these people go out, if they don't meet the provider, they go to this field, which like assigned field to them, and they go there and then they sit and they count what they see, basically. Sounds great, doesn't it, on a sunny day? Now for that one there, they're not actually meeting anyone. They're going to that location and doing that particular activity. Okay, in which case they want them to complete a worksheet. Now they can then upload the worksheet onto the opportunity, allowing the volunteer to download that worksheet, which says, butterflies spotted, earwig spotted. Well, I forget what it said now, but lots of different things that they have to spot. And then they'd fill out the worksheet and then re-upload that back onto the opportunity after they'd attended it. So if you think about it, there's quite a lot of different scenarios where you might want to add documents to opportunities and allow them to re-upload it as well. Okay. Opportunity surveys. So what kind of opportunity surveys might you want to add? Want to hazard a guess? What about the kind of survey? Well, you think if you want to survey a particular opportunity, so maybe you might want to find out, it is about that specific opportunity. I mean, you could have a generic one, I suppose, but what the volunteer is going to be thinking about is the opportunity that they're on, that the survey is attached to. So you might ask, I mean, obviously they can put in basic feedback anyway in the system without a survey. You know, how did you find it? I had a great time, thanks. It was made to feel really welcome, blah, blah, blah. That tends to be the kind of the standard feedback that they leave. But you might want more detailed feedback, a survey, where you're asking them, you know, was you made to feel welcome? Was you give a scale of 1 to 5 with a whole list of questions about their experience to make sure that, you know, that you see how you can improve it, to make sure they had a good time. Okay. So you can add surveys on there. Now, if you add surveys, you can see it on the right-hand side how it appears to the volunteer. The surveys, you can't create the surveys in the TeamKinetic system. You create them in SurveyMonkey or Google Forms, wherever you want to create them. It just basically adds that you can add a link to the survey from the opportunity using that option on the left. So once you say add a post-opportunity survey link, yes, it then lets you put the link in to the, I could say, SurveyMonkey link or Google Forms link. And the volunteer can click on it, and then they'll complete the survey. You get a bit more information about how their experience was. Okay, we've got system demos here, which I think we've got enough time for here. Okay. So you can feel free to have a crack at this yourself using those links there that I've put in. We do have a demo system set up, and you can have a play around and try and create different scenarios. Or I can kind of take you through them. Is there any questions of anything I've covered? This is kind of right at the end of the training session now. Any final questions? No. Okay. So I want you to, if you can, you feel free now. If you want to leave the training session, feel free to do so. If you do want to have a play around with it, then you can use those links there. I was going to take you through it, but I don't think it's going to. I think it's more advantageous for you to kind of go through that yourself if you wanted to, and have a play around with that with the demo site. So the email address is demo@teamkinetic.co.uk. The password is the same, and the link there is above, demo.teamkinetic.co.uk/VK/admin, which will take you to the admin login screen. That's
sorry, Steve, are you able to copy and paste that?
Yeah, she'll put it into the.
Don't mind.
Of course I can. Yeah, not a problem at all. He says. I'll put it in the chat now. One sec. Dun, dun. Oh, password. Also, it's not the password's demo@teamkinetic. I think it is. I think I changed it earlier on. Try and simplify it. Try and log in. It's either password or demo@teamkinetic.co.uk. One of them would definitely work. Sorry, Rolf. It's normally set a password, but I changed it to try and make it simple for everyone.
Yeah, that won't stick because it resets every hour. So.
Okay, no problem.
I'll revert back.
Okay. So, is there any other burning questions anyone has? Sure about? What I will say, I suppose, while you're having a tinker around with that, is what's up and coming with these flows. I don't want to go too much detail, but we have this new thing called flows, which is coming out, which is the ability to create a set of steps that the volunteer needs to go through before they can get onto an opportunity in the main. And these steps might be, okay, before you get into this, we need to have a chat with you, have a meeting with you, and then we need to have references sorted out. Then we need to do your DBS or your PVGs if you're in Scotland, and then lots of other things. You need to upload 2 types of ID and all these other things. So there's a set of steps you can create, which the volunteer will be not forced, not kind of hold their arm behind their back, but they will have to go through before they're allowed to actually get onto the opportunity. Okay, so this is coming in the next few weeks. So it's imminent. The great thing is it's not just about before they can get onto an opportunity. You can also use these flows and put them directly after they register. So you might say, all right, actually, when they register, they also got this ability to, it's going to automatically put them on this set of steps that they have to complete, directly after registration. We need to collect this ID of them. We need to have this meeting with them. We need to So I'm thinking more like the hospital side of thing. They tend to use this stuff because obviously it's because of the vulnerable, the nature of the opportunities that they have to offer. There's a lot more kind of security and kind of checks that have to be done. So yeah, we've got it at the moment. It's post-registration, which means they get on it straight after they register, or you can assign it to this is before they can allowed on an opportunity. And what's coming at a later date will be a post-opportunity, which means once they're on the opportunity, then they have a set of steps they have to go through. So if I give an example of that, you might create an opportunity like the quad bikes, for example, where okay, you see them, they apply for it, you approve them on the opportunity. Yes, Joe Bloggs can help me out moving branches on the quad bike, but then there's a set of steps they have to do after they're on it, like have the orientation around the quad bike, sign the specific insurance forms, and read the health and safety, watch the health and safety video, and all that kind of stuff before they're actually allowed to go and get on the quad bike. So that's flows, and it's exciting and a big development which is coming in the very near future. Okay. If there's no other questions, I think we're a little bit early, but I'm going to wrap things up. Feel free to play around on that demo site, like I said. But yeah, if you want to hang around at the end, you feel free to leave now. It's perfectly fine. I'm going to stop recording. If you want to hang around at the end, thank you, Lisa. You're welcome.
Thank you.
And I'll hang around at the end if anyone's got any burning questions that they want to ask me in a smaller group setting.